This is my friend Richard, and I've had the privilege of knowing him for the last couple of years. Unlike most people that I ride with, I actually didn't meet him through cycling. I was introduced to him via my wife. So my wife and his wife worked together a long time ago, and they always talk to each other about how their husbands cycle, and one day they had the very bad idea of introducing us to each other. Fast forward to today, and we spend a little bit too much time together, and I think our wives are a bit suspicious about the nature of our relationship. Not only is Richard a very experienced cyclist, he's also a ride leader for TdC. TdC is an amazing charity organisation which raise money for cancer research, and they do this by hosting cycling tours. Since their inception, they've raised over $130 million, and not only that, they teach people how to ride safely in a group and also have a great time. This is something that Richard's been involved in for quite a while and is very passionate about it, so when he gave me the opportunity to come and join them on one of their training rides, I knew I had to take it and see how their group operates. So today, myself and some of the other ride leaders from Pastries.CC, we're going to join one of TdC's training rides. We're going to ride about 80 kilometers up to Bobbin Head and then back via the northern beaches. And in return, we're going to take the guys and girls at TdC to one of our favourite bakeries in the North Shore, which is Flower Shop. So come along for the ride with us. I'm going to tell you a bit about it, also a bit about their organisation, and most importantly, how they organise their rides so that everyone can be safe as possible. We'll split into equal-sized groups based on rider ability and preferences for speed, and we were given a very comprehensive ride briefing. This included all the safety expectations, details on the route, and also things to look out for. The riders that we're riding with today are preparing for an upcoming Discovery Tour, which is a 3-day tour, which Richard is participating in. But if that wasn't enough, there's actually signature tours. There's one next year in May, which is 8 days long and covers over 1,000 kilometers. So make no mistake, these tours are not a walk in the park. It is definitely a challenge. And a challenge is a fantastic way to platform for a charity fundraising.
Hard the workflow. But alongside you? Yeah. Holes middle. Holes right.
Spring is where the best of Sydney riding comes out, and we were greeted with an absolutely fantastic day. Not a cloud in the sky, crisp, cool air, but the sun was out, keeping our skin warm. And the route we're doing today is a mixture of challenging but also not too hard. We've got one major climb, which is the Bobbin Head climb. It's about 3.5 kilometers at 4.5%. And the rest of it is just rolling hills. So as you've seen from that image that I put at the start of the video, even though the ride is only about 80 kilometers, there's over 1,000 meters of elevation. Riding hills is probably the best way to get bang for your buck in terms of fitness, because you're forced to push down the watts. If you stop pedaling, you'll go backwards and fall over, and also the draft is not as big of a deal, so you're a bit more reliant on your own fitness. With that being said, rides like this are made a lot easier when everyone works together safely, and cooperation within the peloton is at the forefront of people's mind. The TdC has really built a reputation for being one of the safest groups to ride with, so I want to tell you guys today some of the learnings of what I observed on this ride, and maybe you can apply it to some of your group rides or just apply it to your own riding when you're by yourself. So the first thing is, you may have observed in my footage already, but the riders leave a bit more of a distance between themselves and the riders in front of them. And this is because your safety should never be compromised for a good draft. If you're riding too close behind someone, sure, you'll be saving some watts, but you might not be able to see upcoming dangers like potholes, and there's also the high risk of crossing wheels, which will cause a crash. The next one was everyone understanding the commands and also pass them down. And actually not just pass them down, but also pass them up from the back of the group. So 2 examples of that is calling out lane changes. So someone at the back of the group, typically one of the ride leaders, will secure the lane, and then they'll call for an over, and then everyone up progressively through the group will echo that call so that everyone's on the same page and they're all coordinated. Likewise, from the front of the group, if there's an upcoming pothole or if we need to change from double to single or vice versa, that call is all passed down. So I think the important thing to recognize here is that everyone needs to understand the commands, everyone needs to echo the calls, and it needs to be done throughout the whole entire group. And the last one is something that you might not have seen, but if you had a keen eye, you would have seen at the very start of the video. Richard is wearing a radio. So he's got a radio in his back middle pocket with a speaker that's attached that sits on his shoulder. So at first, I was a bit skeptical of the use of radios in a peloton. After he's invited me along to this ride and I got to see it in action, I can see the real value of it. So here's some examples of why it's really valuable. So the first of all, probably the most dangerous activity you do while cycling on roads is lane changes. And that's because it's hard to predict the behavior of cars, especially people who are trying to rush around a big group. With the radio, the person at the back of the peloton, the ride leader, can secure the lane, can speak on the radio as well as call out to the group, and the people at the front will know when it's safe to go over. Another one is that it also helps with the cohesion within the peloton. So an example of this one is that when we're going up rolling hills, sometimes the front group will surge a bit, but people at the back may be struggling because they can't keep up with those efforts. So a call from the back with the radio to ease up at the front usually would be missed if it's just verbal, but having it on the radio allows the people at the front to know exactly what's going on at the back of the peloton. These are just some of my observations of how TdC make their rides as friendly and safe as possible. And I think some of these learnings are important to bring back to my own club and when I ride with my friends. Anyway, we're at the cafe and it's time to show the guys and girls at TdC what we love to do at Pastries.CC.
Macaronis, look at these boys.
It's way too much, man. Although I don't know if I want it. I think it's too much.
Right, Jerusalem bagel every time for me. Actually, the next group shouldn't be too far behind us. They're ready to roll out pretty much.
Howdy here, Richard's going to take the back. I'm going to jump on the front of a bit.
After we'd all enjoyed a sweetie or a savoury, we had a little mid-ride briefing where they told us a bit more about the rest of the ride before we headed off. At this point, we probably had about 30 or 40 kilometres left to go, so we're only halfway, but the rest of the ride is quite easy compared to that first half. If you're familiar with Sydney, we're going to be riding up Monavale Road, onto Forest Way, and then finally onto Wakehurst Parkway, which would lead us back to the Spit Bridge, which brings us to the Lower North Shore where we started. And while the terrain and riding may be easier than that first half, we got some challenges in the second half. So we're going to be riding on some busier roads, and on top of that it's later on in the day, so there's going to be more traffic. So it's more important than ever to ride safely. So as I said before, Richard is doing a 3-day tour and he's fundraising right now. Now I know most of you guys watching this video don't know Richard personally, but I think something that is personal to you is cancer. Almost everybody has been impacted by cancer personally in one way or another, whether it be a family member or yourself. So why not donate to a good cause? I've put Richard's details for his fundraiser in the description below. If you feel like it, leave a donation. It's tax deductible and is instrumental in finding cures for cancer. So I'm going to leave the video there, guys. I hope that you found this interesting, fun, something a little bit different, and I hope that you can take away some of the safety messages that I talked about in this video. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.